Such images cannot help but bring people back to the hometown of their childhood. Those familiar wastelands along the forest edge are covered with foxtail grass in full bloom. The quiet mountain paths are marked with countless footprints left by villagers over the years. Within the mottled woods, there seems to linger the earthy fragrance of wild mushrooms. Beside the clear river, a solitary washing tool stands quietly in place. At the village entrance, mountain spring water flows year-round, its sweet taste still lingering in memory even now. A teacher named Louise carries a noble mission as she crosses mountains and ridges to reach this remote mountain village. She hopes that she can break through the stubborn barriers built by generations of farming traditions. The villagers here are closed off and self-isolated, struggling with constant hunger and narrow-minded thinking, which makes them deeply hostile toward all outsiders. Louise hopes to ask an elderly woman for the location of the village chief's home. The old woman merely looks Louise up and down before walking away without a single word. At that moment, a villager curses as he steps out of a wooden house, followed by the appearance of a heavy-set man with a white beard. Fortunately, this man is exactly the village chief Louise has been searching for. Facing the exhausted Louise, the village chief shows no expression at all. To comply with orders from higher authorities, he leads Louise to an abandoned cowshed and tells her that this will be her place to live. Several holes in the roof allow the setting sun to pour in, casting scattered golden light across the ground. In the corner, moldy hay mixed with the sour stench of animal waste tightens Louise's nose. The village chief tells her that he can receive her, but he cannot guarantee that any children will be willing to attend school. After giving a few brief instructions, the village chief quickly leaves the cowshed. Unable to fall asleep that night, Louise carefully writes down her experiences of the past 2 days in her journal. Early the next morning, the crowing of a rooster drives away the heaviness of the night. Louise pushes open the door, and the fresh rural air instantly lifts her spirits. Having adjusted her mindset, she cheerfully greets the village chief, only to find that he does not even look up at her before walking straight into his kitchen. Louise does not lose heart, and she carefully cleans the place that at least shelters her from wind and rain. When she prepares to take her clothes to the river to wash them, the villagers she passes along the way treat her as if she were invisible. As Louise asks them for directions to the river, a child is about to answer before being sharply stopped by his father. Just as Louise feels awkward, the village's only priest takes the initiative to greet her. However, the priest does not speak out of kindness, and instead mocks the idea that Louise's arrival will change the fact that children do not want to receive an education. He says that if the children all go to school, families will lose their labor force, and the villagers will never change their minds. As for the girls in the village, most of them must take on chores like washing clothes and cooking from a very young age. Their parents teach them that only by mastering household duties can they find a good marriage in the future and better serve their husbands. Louise watches these young children and feels a trace of pity for how early they have grown up. Fortunately, the education department's allowance arrives on time, ensuring Louise's basic living needs. Yet even after the school sign has been hung for an entire month, not a single child comes to ask about enrolling. Day after day, Louise sits at the doorway, firmly believing that her persistence will eventually bring students to her door. One day, while going to the river to wash clothes, Louise happens to see a young boy walking toward the village chief's house. The boy intentionally or unintentionally brings up the topic of going to school to the village chief. The village chief uses harsh language to warn the boy not to ask such questions again. Louise angrily walks up to confront the village chief.
L'école est obligatoire, c'est la loi. Vous devez l'appliquer. Soit vous m'envoyez les enfants, soit j'appelle les gendarmes.
Pour l'instant, vous êtes une étrangère. Si vous faites ça, vous deviendrez une ennemie.
The following season is the long rainy period in the southern region, with damp, moldy air filling the surroundings, mirroring Louise's discouraged mood. During this time, she sets up desks and chairs in the cowshed and prepares some related books. Yet the classroom remains completely empty. Brand new learning supplies look especially lonely in this secluded mountain village. The villagers are busy working in the fields, and they have no time to remember the existence of the foreign teacher at all. They do not know what learning can bring them. They only know that endless labor is the only way to avoid hunger. As autumn passes and winter arrives, Louise still has not gained a single student. In order to add some protein, she asks the village chief to take her into the mountains to hunt wild game, to replenish energy and survive the long, freezing winter. At the same time, Louise gradually comes to understand the personalities of some villagers. In households that are slightly more friendly, Louise visits again and again, patiently persuading the parents of school-age children, hoping that when spring arrives, they will send their children to school to study. when a woman in the village suffers labor pains for 3 days and 3 nights without giving birth. Louise uses the midwifery knowledge she learned from books to help her safely deliver a baby boy. The family sincerely thanks her, and only then does Louise begin to have a small sense of presence in the village. Louise has not felt this happy for a long time, and as he looks at this remarkable woman, the village chief's gaze gradually softens. In the days that follow, the village chief begins to greet Louise on his own initiative. Before spring even arrives, Louise's classroom welcomes its very first student. She is the eldest daughter of the family whose mother Louise helped deliver the baby during winter. Her grandfather politely explains their purpose and shows great anticipation and curiosity toward learning. Even with only one student, Louise teaches diligently every single day. Before long, 2 young boys also knock on the classroom door. After that, when Louise walks through the village, the villagers begin to greet her proactively as well. Over the next 3 months, more and more children fill the classroom, and Louise's teaching journey becomes increasingly full of strength. When spring arrives, the children change mentally through learning. They become far more lively, and the village itself seems to grow more vibrant. Louise adds more desks and benches, and the village chief also uses his actions to prove his own change. Watching this scene, the village chief's mother reveals a relieved smile. However, many villagers still complain that with their children attending school, there are not enough hands to handle the heavy farm work at home, and they scold their children loudly, saying that school takes up too much of their time. They want their children to return to the fields just like before. A boy named Flor watches the students during activities. His eyes filled with envy, he repeatedly asks his father for permission to go to school, his gaze shining with longing, but his stubborn-minded father always rejects him outright. Under Louise's guidance, the village children not only learn academic knowledge, they also broaden their horizons, and from that moment on, their world becomes much bigger, influenced by the children. After school every day the village chief actively goes to find Louise, and he also begins learning to read and write. The village chief gains a new understanding of Louise, and he starts to admire people who are educated. In order to give the children a better learning environment, under the village chief's leadership, the villagers voluntarily build a school together. The new school is located halfway up the mountain near the village, with beautiful scenery, warm winters, and cool summers. Unexpectedly, Flor's father hears about this and rushes over to stop it. He claims that Louise has misled them, making them abandon tradition and take away the labor force from their homes. The village chief instead advises him that taking care of his own affairs is more important. On the day they move into the new school, Flor cannot help but come to the school to offer help. His older brothers and sisters roughly try to drag him back home. Just as Louise happens to see it, she walks over to Flor and gently speaks to him.
L'un n'empêche pas l'autre, au contraire. T'aimes les trains?
Un jour, je prendrai le train. Je ferai le tour de France, je serai compagnon.
Tiens, prends-les si tu veux. Il y a des dessins et des photographies. Je te les prête. Tu me diras ce que t'en penses. Puis je te laisserai une place à côté de Flore à la nouvelle école.
Louise gains the support of the men in the village, yet some village women constantly gossip about her behind her back. One fierce woman firmly believes those baseless rumors and even uses filthy language to insult Louise. Louise does not feel afraid. She confronts her directly, and this behavior further provokes the woman's anger. She raises a kitchen knife and steps into the river, grappling violently with Louise. But this woman from the big city of Paris is far from weak as imagined. The next day, Louise shows up with bruises all over her face and still insists on teaching the children. Louise uses her own experience to tell the children that when faced with injustice, they must rise up and resist, and they must have their own independent thoughts and opinions. In this village, aside from men who dominate everything, this concept has never existed in the hearts of children and women. Just as the students finish school and leave, the priest comes looking for Louise. The priest warns Louise not to undermine their beliefs. They do not need new and radical ideas, because such things will only bring disaster to the village. Louise responds that children need to know there is a wider world beyond this village. Every life has its own unique value. Rather than being bound by the Bible in the priest's hands, she hopes the children can live more fulfilling lives. The priest's face turns pale instantly, and he grips the cross in his hand even tighter. Not long after, the village chief's mother passes away, and Louise returns to his home to help him handle the funeral arrangements. When they step outside, they see a red glow rising from the new school on the mountainside. It turns out that the newly completed school has been set on fire. The blaze burns throughout the entire night, and by dawn the next day, Only a charred black frame remains. The farmers who have long harbored resentment toward Louise watch her walk out of the village, convinced that after this incident, she will completely give up on running a school. To their surprise, Louise walks straight toward Flore's home at the village entrance. Louise's arrival makes Flore's father extremely agitated, and he even threatens her with a gun, telling her to get out of the village immediately. It is revealed that he is the one who set fire to the new school building. During her conversation with Flore's father, Louise learns that Flore's grandfather was once deceived by a literate merchant who used a land sale contract to cheat their family out of a piece of land. Unable to withstand such a blow, Flore's grandfather gave up his own life. This is the reason why Flore's father resents Louise's arrival so deeply. He believes that if no one could read, there would be no deception. Louise patiently guides him and his wife, telling them that if all the villagers could read, they would never have to endure such painful experiences again. In the end, Flore's parents are moved by Louise's sincerity and agree to let Flore attend school. Worried about Louise, the village chief also rushes to Flore's home. Louise sees through the village chief's rough exterior and recognizes the gentle heart hidden beneath it. Without a school building, the children happily continue their lessons beneath a large tree in the fields. The spark of education has already been ignited in the village, and this flame not only lights up the children's future, but also allows those blood-stained memories to find release and reconciliation in fields filled with hope. And this flame will continue to burn, illuminating more lands trapped by mountains, and lighting up more eyes that long for knowledge.